Captain Jake Morrison stood at the bridge of the UES Horizon, watching the massive space station grow larger on his screen. The station was huge, bigger than any city on Earth. Its metal surface gleamed under the light of 3 different suns. Strange ships moved around it like busy insects, each one different from the others. "Captain, we're getting a signal from the station," said Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez from her seat at the communications desk. "They want us to dock at Bay 7. Jake nodded and looked at the woman sitting next to him. Dr. Lisa Shang was the best scientist Earth had to offer. She studied alien life forms and had spent years preparing for this moment. Next to her sat Commander Rick Torres, a military man who had fought in Earth's last war. His job was to keep them all safe. "This is it," Jake said quietly. "First contact with the Galactic Council. Everything we do here will shape how they see humanity." The docking process was smooth. The alien technology guided their ship into the bay with ease. When the doors opened, Jake felt his heart beat faster. He was about to meet beings from other worlds, creatures that had been traveling the stars for thousands of years. The air outside smelled different. It was clean but had a metallic taste. The gravity felt normal, which surprised Jake. He had expected it to be different. The walls of the station were covered in symbols he could not read. Lights moved in patterns that seemed to have meaning. A group of aliens waited for them. Jake had seen pictures, but seeing them in person was different. The first alien looked like a giant insect. It had 4 arms and eyes that covered most of its head. Its body was covered in what looked like natural armor. Behind it stood other insects, all exactly the same. "I am HFY Crystal," the insect said. Its voice came from a device on its chest. "I speak for the Zephyrian Collective. We welcome you to Nexus Prime." The second alien was even stranger. It looked like it was made of living crystal. Light moved through its body in waves. When it spoke, its voice sounded like music. "I am Shard Speaker Velther of the Luminian Empire. Your arrival has been noted." The third alien looked more like something from Earth's past. It was covered in scales and stood on 2 legs like a human, but it was much bigger and had a long tail. Its eyes were yellow and seemed to look right through them. "War Chief Thekimer of the Sorkins," it said in a rough voice. "You are smaller than we expected." Jake stepped forward. He had practiced this moment many times. "I am Captain Jake Morrison of the United Earthship Horizon. With me are Dr. Lisa Chang and Commander Rick Torres. We come in peace, seeking friendship with the Galactic Council." The insect alien made a sound that might have been laughter. "Peace is assumed. You are not advanced enough to be a threat. Come, the Council waits." As they walked through the station, Jake noticed other aliens watching them. Some looked curious, others seemed bored. A few appeared to be taking pictures. The hallways were wide enough for creatures much larger than humans. The ceiling was so high that Jake could barely see it. Dr. Chang whispered to him as they walked. "Captain, look at their body language. The Zephyrians move as one unit. The Luminians seem to communicate through light. The Sorkins keep checking for threats." Rick Torres was also watching. "Security is tight, but not obvious. They have weapons, but they're not pointing them at us. They think we're harmless." The council chamber was enormous. Hundreds of different aliens sat in rows that went up to the ceiling. The air hummed with the sound of different languages being translated. At the center of the room was a platform where the human delegation would stand. "Before we begin," said HFY Crystal, "you must understand your position. Earth has been classified as a Class D primitive species. This means you have limited technology and no significant military power. You are new to space travel and have much to learn." Jake felt anger rise in his chest but kept his voice calm. "We appreciate your assessment. However, we believe humanity has much to offer the galaxy." The crystal alien's light pulsed in what seemed like amusement. "Your species has barely left your home system. You have no colonies, no trading partners, no allies. What could you possibly offer?" "We offer ourselves," Jake said. "Our knowledge, our friendship, our willingness to help others. This caused a buzz of sound throughout the chamber. Many aliens seemed to find this funny. The reptilian war chief Vecmar leaned forward. Help others? You cannot even help yourselves. Your planet is divided into competing groups. You fight wars over resources. You pollute your own air and water. Dr. Chang stepped forward. It's true that we have problems, but we also have something special. We have the ability to change, to grow, to become better than we were. All species evolve, said Shard Speaker Velthor. This is not unique to humans. But we choose to evolve, Rick Torres said. We don't wait for natural selection. We decide to be better. The chamber fell quiet. Jake could see the aliens looking at each other. Some of them seemed confused by what Torres had said. Others looked interested for the first time. An alien Jake had not seen before floated above the others. It had no solid body, just a cloud of energy that shifted and moved. When it spoke, its voice seemed to come from everywhere at once. I am thought form Azixinal of the ethereal collective. You speak of choice in evolution. Explain this concept. Jake thought carefully before answering. We believe that intelligence gives us the power to choose our path. We can decide to be violent or peaceful, selfish or generous, closed-minded or curious. Every day, every human makes choices about what kind of person they want to be. This is inefficient, said Hivemind Crystal. The Zephyrian Collective eliminates such waste. All members think as one. There is no conflict, no confusion, no wrong choices. But there's also no growth, Dr. Chang replied. When everyone thinks the same way, new ideas cannot form. Progress stops. Progress is not always good, War Chief Vecmar growled. The Sorkins learned this long ago. We take what we need and defend what we have. This is efficient? Jake looked around the chamber. He could see that the aliens were not just different in appearance. They thought differently too. The insects all thought as one mind. The crystals seemed to communicate through light and energy. The reptiles thought only of strength and survival. But humans were different. They could think in ways that surprised even themselves. We request time to prove ourselves, Jake said. Give us the same tests you give other species. Let us show you what humanity can do. The floating energy being pulsed with different colors. This is acceptable. You will be given standard evaluation tasks. If you fail, you will accept limited status in the galaxy. If you succeed, we will reconsider your classification. What are the tests? Rick Torres asked. Shard-Speaker Velthor's light grew brighter. Resource management, technological adaptation, conflict resolution, and survival. Scenarios. Most primitive species require several cycles to complete these adequately. How long is a cycle? Dr. Chang asked. In your terms, approximately 1 Earth year, Hivemind Crystal replied. Though most species need 3 to 5 cycles. Jake looked at his team. They had come here hoping for friendship and partnership. Instead, they were being tested like children. But this was still an opportunity. We accept your tests. When do we begin? Tomorrow, War Chief Vecmar said. Rest tonight. You will need your strength. As the aliens left the chamber, Jake and his team stood alone on the platform. The huge room felt empty now, but Jake knew they were still being watched. Cameras and sensors were recording everything they did. What do you think? He asked his companions. Dr. Chang looked thoughtful. They're afraid of something. Did you notice how they react when we mention choice or change? They've built their societies around predictable patterns, Rick Torres nodded. They think they know what we are. They see us as weak because we're not unified like them, but that might be our strength. Jake smiled. Then let's show them what humans can really do. Tomorrow, we begin to change how the galaxy sees us. Outside the chamber, the aliens were already talking among themselves. None of them knew that they were about to discover something that would shake the foundations of their ordered universe. They thought they were testing a primitive species. Instead, they were about to encounter something they had never seen before, the hidden side of humanity. The next morning came too quickly for Jake Morrison. He woke up in the small room the aliens had given him. The walls were made of the same metal as the rest of the station. There were no windows, but a screen showed him the view outside. Stars moved slowly past as the station rotated. A soft sound told him someone was at his door. It was Dr. Lisa Chang and Commander Rick Torres. They both looked tired but ready. "The tests begin in 1 hour," Lisa said. "I've been studying the alien technology all night. It's more advanced than anything we have on Earth, but it follows the same basic rules of physics." Rick nodded. "I've been watching their security systems. They have weapons, but they're not designed to fight beings like us. They're made to fight other aliens who think like them." Jake stood up and stretched. His muscles were sore from sleeping on the hard alien bed. "Remember, they expect us to fail. They think we're too primitive to understand their technology or solve their problems." The three humans made their way to the testing area. It was a huge room with different sections for different tests. Other aliens were already there, watching and taking notes. Jake could see the insect aliens standing together in a group. The crystal aliens were arranged in a perfect pattern. The reptile aliens stood ready to fight. Hive mind crystal approached them. "You will be divided into groups for efficiency. Each group will face different challenges. Success in all areas is required for advancement." War Chief Thekmar pointed to a section of the room that looked like a battlefield. "Commander Torres, you will lead the military assessment. Your task is to defend a simulated colony against automated defense systems. Most species struggle with our advanced tactical scenarios." Rick looked at the area. There were holographic buildings that looked like a small town. Flying machines moved around them, and robot soldiers marched in formation. "Who will be on my team?" "Choose from your crew," Shard Speaker Velther said. "You may select 5 individuals." Rick thought for a moment. "I want Pete Collins, our engineer, Amy Rodriguez, our pilot, Don Hughes, our security chief, Kate Wilson, our navigator, and Ben Carter, our systems specialist." The aliens looked at each other. Jake could tell they were surprised that Rick had chosen people with different skills instead of just soldiers. "Dr. Chang," Hive Mind Crystal continued, "you will handle the technological adaptation test. You must take our technology and make it work for human use. Most primitive species cannot understand our advanced systems." Lisa nodded. "I'll need Ben Carter. Oh, he's with Rick's team. Then I'll take Ryan Martinez, our biologist, Carol Adams, our psychologist, Tom Baker, our cultural specialist, and Sarah Kim, our medical officer." Again, the aliens seemed confused. They had expected her to choose only scientists. "Captain Morrison," Thought Form Azixanal said, appearing above them. "Like a cloud of light, you will face the resource management and conflict resolution scenarios. These test your ability to make decisions under pressure." Jake looked at the remaining crew members. "I'll work with Lisa Park, our communications officer, Greg Foster, our tactical analyst, and whoever else wants to help." The aliens led each group to their testing area. Rick's team found themselves in what looked like a war zone. The holographic buildings were under attack from flying machines and robot soldiers. Civilians ran in panic through the streets. "This is not real, Pete," Collins said, looking at the technology around them. "But the aliens are treating it like it is." Amy Rodriguez studied the control panel in front of her. "These are weapon systems. They want us to fight back against the attackers." Rick watched the scenario unfold. He could see that the attacking robots followed patterns. They moved in straight lines and attacked the strongest defenses first. "This is how they think we should fight. Meet force with force. But that's not how humans fight," Don Hughes said. "We adapt. We find weaknesses." Kate Wilson was looking at a map of the area. "Captain, the robots are avoiding the school and the hospital. They're programmed not to attack certain buildings." Rick smiled. "Then that's where we make our stand." "Pete, can you redirect the colony's power to create a shield around the school?" Pete looked at the alien technology. It was complicated, but he could see how it worked. "Give me 10 minutes." Amy took control of the colony's few flying vehicles. Instead of attacking the robots directly, she used them to rescue civilians and move them to safe areas. The watching aliens began to whisper among themselves. In the technology section, Dr. Chang and her team were looking at devices that seemed impossible. The aliens had given them tools that could change the structure of matter itself. Most species spent months just figuring out how to turn them on. "This is like a puzzle," Ryan Martinez said. "Each piece connects to the others in a specific way." Carol Adams was studying the alien instruction manual. "The aliens think in very logical patterns, but humans think differently. We can see connections they might miss." Tom Baker was watching the aliens who were watching them. "They expect us to follow their instructions exactly. But what if we don't?" Sarah Kim was already experimenting with one of the devices. "Look at this. It's designed to work one way, but if we change the input frequency..." The device began to glow with a different color. Lisa Chang smiled. "They built these tools for aliens who think like them. But human creativity might find better ways to use them." Meanwhile, Jake was facing his own challenges. The aliens had created a scenario where two groups of colonists were fighting over water rights. The traditional solution was to divide the water equally, but there wasn't enough for everyone. "This is a test of logic," Lisa Park said. "They want to see if we can make the hard choice." Greg Foster was studying the scenario. "But what if there's a third option? What if we can find more water?" Jake looked at the map. The colony was built near a river, but the river was polluted. "What if we clean the river instead of fighting over the clean water?" The aliens watching them began to move closer. This was not the solution they had expected back in the military test. Rick's team was doing something that shocked the alien observers. Instead of fighting the robots, they were helping the civilians. Pete had created a shield around the school. Amy was using the flying vehicles to evacuate people. Don was organizing the civilians to help each other. "The robots are programmed to attack military targets," Kate Wilson said. "But we're not acting like a military." "Then they don't know how to fight us," Rick replied. "Pete, can you hack into their systems?" Pete was already working on it. "Their programming is very complex, but it's also very rigid. They can't adapt to unexpected situations." Within minutes, Pete had confused the attacking robots so much that they began to shut down. The aliens watching the test were making sounds of surprise and concern. In the technology section, Dr. Chang's team had not only figured out how to use the alien devices, but they had found ways to make them work better. Sarah Kim had modified a medical scanner to work on human biology. Ryan Martinez had turned a matter converter into a food processor that could create Earth-style meals. "This is impossible," Shard Speaker Velther said to the other aliens. "They have been working for only 3 hours. Most species need 3 days to achieve basic functionality." Carol Adams overheard this. "That's because most species probably try to use your technology the way you designed it. Humans ask, what else can this do?" Tom Baker was already working on the next device. "Dr. Chang, I think I can modify this communication system to work with human thought patterns instead of alien ones." The aliens were becoming more and more agitated. These humans were not following the expected patterns. They were not struggling with the advanced technology. Instead, they were improving it. Jake's team had solved the water problem by creating a filtration system that cleaned the polluted river. But they had also done something else. They had convinced the two groups of colonists to work together instead of fighting. "Cooperation is more efficient than conflict," Jake explained to the watching aliens. "When people work together, they can solve problems that seem impossible." Thought form Azixinal floated closer. "This is not the intended solution. The scenario was designed to test decision-making under resource scarcity. We made a decision." Lisa Park said, "We decided that the problem wasn't scarcity. The problem was waste." Greg Foster nodded. "Humans don't just accept limitations, we try to change them." As the day continued, the aliens became more and more concerned. The humans were not just passing the tests. They were solving them in ways that had never been considered. They were working together across different teams, sharing ideas and resources. War Chief Thekmor approached Hivemind Crystal. These humans are unpredictable. They do not follow logical patterns. The Zephyrian collective agrees, Crystal replied. They think as individuals, yet they coordinate as if they were one mind. This should not be possible. Shard speaker Velther S. Light pulsed with uncertainty. They are modifying our technology in ways we had not considered. Some of their improvements are actually superior to our original designs. The three alien leaders looked at each other. They had expected the humans to struggle and fail. Instead, the humans were succeeding in ways that challenged everything the aliens thought they knew about intelligence and problem-solving. We must observe them more closely, Thought Form Azixinal said, appearing among them. The third day of testing brought something none of the aliens had expected. The humans had completed their basic evaluations faster than any species in recorded history. Now they faced the advanced scenarios, tests that usually took months to complete. Captain Jake Morrison stood with his crew in the main testing chamber. The aliens had gathered in larger numbers today. Word had spread through the station that something unusual was happening with the human tests. Today you face crisis management, announced War Chief Thekmore. A colony ship has suffered catastrophic damage. The crew is trapped in different sections. You must coordinate rescue efforts while maintaining life support systems. Jake looked at the holographic display. The ship was breaking apart in space. Red lights flashed everywhere, showing failing systems. The display showed 200 beings trapped in various sections of the dying vessel. The scenario is designed to test prioritization under extreme stress, Hivemind Crickstyle explained. You cannot save everyone. You must choose who lives and who dies. Based on logical criteria, Rick Torres studied the situation. How long do we have? 30 minutes before total system failure, Shard Speaker Velther replied. Most species require careful analysis to determine the optimal solution, but Jake was already moving. Amy, can you pilot a rescue shuttle? In my sleep, Captain, Amy Rodriguez replied. Pete, what do you need to stabilize the life support? Engineer. Pete Collins was already looking at the ship's schematics. Give me Dan Hughes and Kate Wilson. We can reroute power from the non-essential systems. Dr. Lisa Chang stepped forward. I'll need Ryan Martinez and Sarah Kim. If they are injured, we'll need to treat them quickly. The aliens watched in amazement as the humans split into teams. Without any discussion of who to save first, they had expected careful analysis, logical prioritization, and difficult choices. Instead, the humans were acting as if they could save everyone. This is inefficient, Hivemind Crickstall said to the other observers. They have not calculated the probability of success for each rescue. The Luminians would analyze all options first, Shard Speaker Velther agreed. Choose the most logical course of action. War Chief Thekmore growled. The Sorkins would save the strongest first. The weak would be left behind. But the humans were doing something different. Amy was piloting the rescue shuttle toward the most dangerous section of the ship where the explosion had trapped a group of alien civilians. Pete and his team were working to restore power to the entire vessel instead of just saving part of it. Captain, called Lisa Park from the communications station. I'm getting signals from all sections of the ship. There are families trapped. Together, parents separated from their children. Jake felt something twist in his stomach. These were not real beings, he knew. This was just a simulation. But his crew was treating it as if every life mattered. Can you patch me through to the ship? Jake asked. Already working on it, Lisa replied. Suddenly, Jake's voice was being broadcast throughout the dying ship. This is Captain Morrison of the rescue team. We are coming for you, all of you. Stay calm and help each other. The aliens watching the test looked at each other in confusion. The humans were wasting time talking to simulated beings who were not real. Why are they communicating with the program? Asked a snake-like alien from the Serpentine Collective. Humans often behave irrationally under stress, replied Thought Form Azixinal. This confirms their primitive nature. But something was happening that the aliens had not expected. The simulated beings on the ship were responding to Jake's words. They were helping each other, sharing resources, and working together. The ship's systems were lasting longer than the program had calculated. Amy's shuttle reached the first group of trapped beings. Instead of taking the strongest first, she was helping the injured. Don Hughes had crawled into a damaged section to carry out an alien child who was too scared to move. "This is not optimal," said a robotic alien from the Mechanic Union. "The child has a low probability of survival. Resources should be allocated to beings with higher success rates." Dr. Chang was treating aliens who had been injured in the explosion. She was using human medical techniques adapted for alien biology. But more importantly, she was talking to them, comforting them, telling them they would be okay. "The human physician is wasting time on emotional comfort," observed a floating gas being from the atmospheric collective. "Medical treatment should focus on physical repair only." Pete Collins and his team had done something remarkable. Instead of just restoring partial power, they had figured out how to boost the ship's engines. The vessel was no longer drifting. Helplessly, it was moving toward safety. "Impossible," said Shard Speaker Velther. "The ship was designed to be unsalvageable. No species has ever attempted to repair the engines during this scenario." Kate Wilson was coordinating the entire rescue from the navigation station. She was tracking every group, every shuttle, every repair team. But she was also doing something else. She was making sure no one was left alone. "There's an alien in Section 12, she called out. "He's trapped but not injured. Should I add him to the priority list?" "Yes," Jake replied without hesitation. No one gets left behind. The aliens watching the test were becoming more agitated. This was not how the scenario was supposed to work. The humans were not making logical choices. They were not prioritizing based on survival probability. They were trying to save everyone, even when it made no sense. "The test is failing," Hivemind Crickstal said to the other observers. "The humans are not following the parameters." "Perhaps we should stop the simulation," suggested War Chief Vekmur, but Thoughtform Azixanal was studying the results carefully. "No, let them continue. This is providing valuable data about human behavior patterns." 28 minutes into the scenario, something happened that had never occurred before. The humans had saved everyone. All 200 beings were safe. The ship was stable and moving toward rescue. The scenario that was designed to test impossible choices had been solved without any choices at all. The testing chamber fell silent. Hundreds of aliens stared at the humans in disbelief. The holographic display showed a completely successful rescue with 0 casualties. "How is this possible?" asked a crystalline being from the geometric collective. Dr. Chang looked tired, but happy. "We didn't accept the premise that some had to die. We looked for a way to save everyone." "But the mathematics were clear," Shard Speaker Velther protested. "The resources were insufficient. The time was too short." "Success was impossible," Rick Torres smiled. "Humans have a saying, the impossible just takes a little longer." Amy Rodriguez was cleaning her hands after the rescue simulation. "On Earth, we have stories about people who saved everyone when it should have been impossible. We call them heroes." "Heroes?" asked a bird-like alien from the Avian Confederation. "What is this concept?" Jake tried to explain. "A hero is someone who does the right thing even when it's hard, even when it seems impossible, even when they might get hurt." The aliens looked at each other with growing confusion. This concept made no sense to them. Why would anyone take unnecessary risks? Why would anyone spend extra resources on low-probability outcomes? "But what do heroes gain from this behavior?" asked Hivemind Crickstal. "Nothing," said Pete Collins. "That's the point. Heroes don't do good things because they get rewarded. They do good things because they're good things." The chamber erupted in noise as hundreds of aliens began talking at once. They were trying to understand what they had just witnessed. The humans had solved an impossible scenario by refusing to accept that it was impossible, but the day was not over. The aliens had prepared one final test, something they had never used before. It was designed to break the spirits of species that thought they were superior to the established order. "There is one more scenario," announced Thoughtform Azixanal. "You will face a situation where helping others will cause harm to yourselves. You must choose between self-preservation and altruism. The holographic display changed. Now it showed a real situation, not a simulation. A ship was in distress in a nearby system. The crew was a mix of different alien species, all from civilizations that had rejected humans as primitive. This is not a test, War Chief Thekmor explained. This is a real emergency. The ship will be destroyed in 6 hours. A rescue mission would be dangerous and expensive. You have no obligation to help them, Jake looked at his crew. They were tired from the day's testing. They had proven themselves over and over again. They could walk away from this situation and no one would blame them. How many beings are on the ship? Jake asked. 300, replied Shard Speaker Velthor. But they are not human. They are from species that have voted to classify Earth as primitive. They do not consider you equals, Dr. Chang stepped forward. That doesn't matter. They're in trouble. We can help them. It would be dangerous, Hivemind Crystal warned. Your small ship could be destroyed, your crew could die. For beings who do not respect you, Rick Torres looked at Jake. Captain, it's your call, but you know what the crew will want to do. Jake looked around the chamber at all the alien faces watching him. Some looked curious, others looked skeptical, a few looked concerned. We're going, Jake said simply. The chamber exploded with noise. Again, aliens were shouting in languages the humans couldn't understand. The U's Horizon flew through space faster than it had ever gone before. Captain Jake Morrison pushed the engines to their limit as they raced toward the distressed alien ship. Behind them, the massive space station Nexus Prime grew smaller until it was just another point of light among the stars. Captain, we're getting more signals from the damaged vessel, called Lisa Park from her communications station. Their life support is failing faster than expected. We have maybe 4 hours instead of 6. Jake felt his jaw tighten. 4 hours was not much time, especially when they didn't know what they would find when they arrived. Amy, how long until we reach them? Pilot Amy Rodriguez checked her instruments. 3 hours and 20 minutes at maximum speed. But Captain, we're pushing the engines harder than they're designed for. Keep pushing, Jake replied. Pete, what's our status? Engineer Pete Collins looked up from his console. The ship can handle it, but we'll need major repairs when this is over. The alien technology we adapted is helping, but our human systems weren't built for this kind of stress. Dr. Lisa Chang was studying the medical data they had received about the alien crew. Captain, we have a problem. The ship has crew from 4 different species. If they're all injured, I'm not sure our medical supplies will work on all of them. We'll figure it out when we get there, Jake said. We always do. Commander Rick Torres was planning the rescue operation. The ship is breaking apart in 3 sections. We'll need to coordinate multiple shuttle runs to get everyone out. Meanwhile, back at Nexus Prime, the aliens were having emergency meetings. What they had witnessed from the humans had shaken them more than they wanted to admit. Hive-Mind, Crystal spoke to the gathered representatives. The human behavior patterns do not match any known civilization types. They act against their own interests consistently. War Chief Thekmor paced back and forth. This makes them unpredictable. Unpredictable species are dangerous. We cannot calculate their responses to threats or opportunities. Shard Speaker Velthor's crystal body pulsed with worried light. Our analysis shows that human decision-making is based on emotional factors rather than logical ones. This should make them weak, but instead it seems to make them stronger. Thought form Azixinal floated above the others, its energy form shifting colors rapidly. We must access the deep archives. Search for any species in galactic history that showed similar patterns. The archives were vast databases that contained information about every civilization the galaxy had encountered over millions of years. Most species were classified into neat categories based on their behavior patterns. Military species focused on conquest. Trading species focused on profit. Scientific species focused on knowledge. But humans seemed to fit none of these categories. As the alien leaders searched through ancient records, they began to find disturbing information. There had been other species like humans long ago. Species that made decisions based on abstract concepts like justice and compassion rather than practical benefits? Here, said a mechanical voice from the archive system. Civilization designation, the predecessors? Timeline, 847,000 years ago. Classification, emotional decision-makers with high adaptability and unpredictable behavior patterns. The room fell silent. Every species in the galaxy knew about the predecessors, but most of the records about them were lost or classified at the highest levels. What happened to them? Asked War Chief Thekmor. Records indicate they expanded rapidly across 17 sectors of the galaxy. They formed alliances with primitive species and helped them advance technologically. They intervened in conflicts they had no stake in. They consistently acted against their own strategic interests. And then, pressed Shard Speaker Velther, they vanished. No record of their destruction. No evidence of migration to other galaxies. They simply stopped existing approximately 846,000 years ago. The alien leaders looked at each other with growing alarm. The predecessors had been the most advanced civilization in galactic history. If they had vanished because of their emotional decision-making, what did that mean for humans? Back in space, the UES Horizon was approaching the damaged alien vessel. The ship was worse than the long-range scans had shown. It was split into 4 pieces instead of 3, and debris was floating everywhere. "My God," whispered Amy Rodriguez, as she saw the destruction. "How is anyone still alive in there?" Jake studied the wreckage through the view screen. "Because they're fighters just like us?" "Lisa, are you getting any life signs?" Dr. Chang was scanning the debris field. "Yes, but they're weak. The aliens are in some kind of emergency stasis to preserve oxygen. We need to get them out fast." Rick Torres was already suiting up for a spacewalk. "Captain, the shuttle bay on the alien ship is crushed. We'll have to cut our way in through the hull." "Take Don Hughes and Kate Wilson with you," Jake ordered. "Pete, can you boost our shields? I want to get as close to that wreckage as possible." As the Horizon moved closer to the damaged ship, they began receiving weak communications. The alien voices were desperate and frightened. They had been drifting for 18 hours, watching their ship slowly die around them. "This is Captain Morrison of the Earth vessel Horizon," Jake broadcast. "We're here to help. Stay calm and follow our instructions." The response surprised him. One of the alien voices, speaking in broken English, said, "Why? Why do you help us? Earth ships are primitive." "We voted against your advancement." Jake felt his crew looking at him. They all knew the aliens were right. These were the same species that had classified humanity as inferior just days ago. "Because you need help," Jake said simply. "That's all that matters." The rescue operation began immediately. Amy piloted the shuttle with incredible skill, weaving between pieces of debris to reach the trapped aliens. Rick and his team cut through the hull using human cutting tools enhanced with alien technology. The first group they rescued were Zephyrian insects, part of the same collective that had dismissed humans as primitive. They were badly injured and barely conscious. Dr. Chang immediately began treating them, even though she had never worked on insect-like biology before. "Their respiratory system is completely different from ours," she said as she worked. "But the basic principles are the same. Sarah, help me stabilize this one." Medical Officer Sarah Kim was adapting human medical techniques for alien physiology. "Dr. Chung, I think this one has offspring inside her body. We need to be careful not to harm them." The second group were Luminian crystals. They were cracked and dim, their internal light barely flickering. Ryan Martinez was trying to figure out how to repair crystalline beings with human tools. "It's like trying to fix a computer that's also alive," he said. "Tom, hand me that resonance generator." "We modified yesterday." Cultural specialist Tom Baker was using the device to send healing frequencies into the crystal beings. "I think it's working. Look, their light is getting brighter." The third group were Sorkins, the warrior species. They were the most badly injured, having tried to fight the ship's destruction instead of going into stasis like the others. War Chief Thekmer himself was among them. Humans, he growled weakly as Rick Torres carried him to safety. Why do you risk yourselves for enemies? You're not our enemies, Rick replied as he helped the injured reptile into the shuttle. You're just people who need help. The fourth group was the most surprising. They were from a species the humans had never seen before, tall, graceful, beings with silver skin and large eyes. They seemed to be the ship's crew. We are navigators, one of them said in perfect English. We guide ships between the stars. We have heard of your species, but we did not expect this. Expect what? Asked Kate Wilson as she helped them aboard. Kindness, the navigator replied. True kindness without expectation of reward. As the rescue continued, something remarkable happened. The aliens began helping each other. The Zephyrians shared their emergency food supplies with the Luminians. The Sorkins used their strength to help move the injured navigators. The Luminians provided light for the medical procedures. Captain, said Greg Foster, who was monitoring the situation, they're working together. I've never seen different alien species cooperate like this. Jake watched as former enemies helped each other. Survive? Maybe they're learning something from us? The rescue took 6 hours, but they saved everyone. All 300 beings were safe aboard the Horizon and the alien ship's own surviving shuttles. Dr. Chang and her team had performed medical miracles, treating species they had never encountered before. As they prepared to return to Nexus Prime, the alien survivors gathered in the Horizon's main cargo bay. They wanted to speak with the human crew. The navigator who had spoken earlier stepped forward. We must understand. You risked your ship and your lives for us. We offered you nothing in return. Some of us spoke against you at the council. Why did you save us? Jake looked at his crew. They were tired, dirty, and some were injured from the rescue operation. But they all had the same expression on their faces. They looked satisfied, even happy. Because it was the right thing to do, Jake said. Because you needed help and we could provide it. Because that's what intelligent beings should do for each other. War Chief Thekmer struggled to his feet despite his injuries. This concept of right that you speak of? It is not based on strength or survival or gain. What drives this behavior? The council chamber had never been so quiet. Captain Jake Morrison stood with his crew in the center of the massive room, surrounded by thousands of alien representatives. But instead of the dismissive chatter from their first meeting, there was only tense silence. The rescue had changed everything. Word had spread through the station faster than anyone expected. The aliens who had been saved were telling their story to everyone who would listen. They spoke of humans who risked their lives for strangers, humans who treated enemies like friends, humans who cared more about others than themselves. Thought form Azixinal floated above the assembly, its energy form shifting through colors that Jake had learned meant deep concern. Captain Morrison, your actions have created an unprecedented situation. We must address the implications of human behavior on galactic stability. Jake looked around the chamber. He could see aliens talking quietly among themselves. Some looked curious, others seemed worried, and a few appeared almost afraid. We saved lives, Jake said simply. I don't understand why that creates problems. War Chief Thekmer stepped forward. His injuries from the rescue were still visible, but he moved with purpose. Because human, you have done something that should not be possible. You have made the Sorkins question our most basic beliefs. Jake felt Dr. Lisa Chang tense beside him. What beliefs? That strength is the only thing that matters, Thekmer replied. For 10,000 years, we have believed that the strong survive and the weak perish. But you were weak, yet you saved the strong. You were few, yet you rescued many. Our warriors are asking questions we cannot answer. Hive Mind Krikstal spoke next, its voice carrying the uncertainty of thousands of linked minds. The Zephyrian Collective has experienced something unknown, individual thoughts that do not serve the Hive. Some of our members are asking why we do not help other species. This threatens our unity. Shard Speaker Velther S. crystal body flickered with unstable light. The Luminians calculate all actions based on logical benefit. But your rescue mission had no logical benefit. Our mathematicians are trying to create new equations to explain your behavior. It is causing system errors in our thinking, Jake began to understand. The aliens were not angry about the rescue. They were frightened by it. Their entire societies were built on principles that humans seem to violate naturally. Captain, said Thoughtform Azixinal, we must show you something that has been hidden for nearly 1,000,000 years. The chamber's lights dimmed. A massive holographic display appeared above them, showing star charts and historical data. Jake could see the movement of civilizations across the galaxy over thousands of years. This is the record of the predecessors, the energy being continued. They were like you. They made decisions based on emotion rather than logic. They helped others without expecting reward. They formed bonds across species lines. The display showed a civilization that had spread across 17 sectors of space. Jake could see how they had contacted primitive species and helped them advance. They had stopped wars, shared technology, and created alliances based on friendship rather than mutual benefit. They sound like good people, Commander Rick Torres said. They were, replied Azixinal. And that was the problem. Their goodness was infectious. Other species began to change. The careful balance of power that had kept the galaxy stable began to break down. The display changed, showing the final years of the predecessor civilization. Jake could see how rapidly things had changed. Species that had been enemies for millions of years were suddenly working together. Trade agreements were being made based on fairness rather than advantage. Military alliances were forming to protect weaker species. What happened to them? Asked Dr. Chung. They vanished, said a new voice. An alien Jake had never seen before entered the chamber. It was ancient-looking, with pale skin and eyes that seemed to hold the weight of eons. I am Keeper Zalthan of the Archive Guild. I was alive when the predecessors disappeared. The chamber fell completely silent. Archive. Keepers were rare, beings who lived for millions of years to preserve galactic history. To have one speak directly was almost unheard of. The predecessors did not die, Keeper Zalthan continued. They chose to leave. They realized that their presence was changing the galaxy too quickly. Species were abandoning their nature to become. Like them, old enemies were becoming friends overnight. The natural order was collapsing, and that was bad? Asked Amy Rodriguez. The ancient being looked at her with sad eyes. Change is not always good, young human. The galaxy had achieved stability through careful balance. Each species had its role. The predecessor's influence was creating chaos, even if it was well-intentioned chaos. Jake felt his heart sink. Are you saying we should leave too? That is one option, said Thoughtform Azixinal. We could provide you with technology to explore beyond our galaxy. You could find empty space to colonize without affecting existing civilizations. Or, said War Chief Thekmar, and his voice was different now, softer somehow, we could try something that has never been attempted before. All eyes turned to the Sorkin's leader. Jake could see that something had changed in the warrior's bearing. The rescue had affected him deeply. What do you mean? Asked Hivemind Crystal. We could learn from them, Thekmar said. Instead of trying to contain their influence or sending them away, we could try to understand it. Maybe the predecessors were wrong to leave. Maybe change is not something to fear. The chamber erupted in noise. Aliens were shouting in hundreds of different languages. The translation system struggled to keep up with the volume of voices. Impossible, said a robotic voice from the Mechanic Union. Our programming does not allow for emotional decision-making. The hive mind cannot survive individual thoughts, protested one of the Zephyrians. Logical systems require predictable inputs, argued a Luminian mathematician, but other voices were joining the debate. The navigator who had been rescued spoke. Up, we have seen human kindness in action. It did not make us weak. It made us want to be better. One of the rescued Zephyrians stepped forward, something Jake had been told was impossible for a hive mind member. I have learned to think for myself while staying connected to my collective. It is not destruction, it is growth. Even some of the Luminians were glowing with new patterns. We have calculated the rescue mission using human emotional factors. The equations work, but they include variables we never considered before. Keeper. Zalthan raised a hand for silence. The choice is before us now, as it was 847,000 years ago. Do we embrace change, or do we resist it? Jake looked at his crew. They were tired from the rescue mission and overwhelmed by the scope of what they were hearing. But he could see determination in their faces. They had not come this far to give up now. We don't want to destroy your galaxy, Jake said. We don't want to force anyone to change. We just want to be ourselves. We want to help when we can, explore what we can, and make friends where we can. But that is exactly what the predecessors wanted, said Shard Speaker Velther. And look what happened, Dr. Chang stepped forward. Maybe the predecessors made a mistake by leaving. Maybe they should have stayed and helped manage the change they were causing. You would do that? Asked Thoughtform Azixanal. You would accept responsibility for the changes your presence causes? Jake thought about Earth, about humanity's long history of making mistakes and learning from them. We're not perfect. We make mistakes all the time, but we try to fix them. We try to do better. And if your influence destroys the stability we have maintained for 1,000,000 years, pressed Keeper Zalthan, then we'll help build something new, Rick Torres said. Something better. The chamber fell silent again. Jake could feel the weight of history pressing down on them. The decision being made here would affect trillions of beings across the galaxy. Finally, War Chief Ekmer spoke. The Sorkins vote to give humanity a chance. We will learn from their strength. The statement sent shockwaves through the assembly. If the warriors were willing to change, anything was possible. One by one, other species began to voice their decisions. The navigators supported humanity. Some of the smaller civilizations that had been helped by the rescue mission agreed. Even a few Zephyrians broke from their collective to vote individually, but many species remained opposed. They feared change too much to risk it. In the end, the vote was closer than anyone expected. By a narrow margin, humanity was granted provisional status in the Galactic Council. They would be watched carefully, and their influence would be monitored. But they would not be exiled or contained. As Jake and his crew prepared to return to Earth, Keeper Zalthan approached them privately. You have been given a great responsibility, the ancient being said. The predecessors changed the galaxy without, meaning you have the chance to guide that change. What advice would you give us? Asked Dr. Chang. Remember that your greatest strength is also your greatest danger, Zalthan replied. Your compassion can heal the galaxy or tear it apart. Use it wisely. Jake looked out at the stars through the station's windows. Somewhere out there was Earth with its billions of humans who had no idea that their simple act of caring about others had just shaken the foundations of galactic civilization. We'll do our best, Jake said. That's all we can promise. Perhaps, said Keeper Zalthan.